know there's a lot of Floridians here, so I just want to say for Floridians who are supporting, involved in law enforcement, or were, thank you for your service. And I also know that there's a lot of people here who probably will be Floridians someday, and probably someday soon. So to all my future constituents, I want to especially thank you for all you do. And I want to thank everybody for what you do and for being a part of the noble profession. You know, Florida, we are proud to be a law and order state. And the rubber meets the road on that. If you go back and look at last summer, we saw rioting in the streets. We saw attacks on law enforcement in Florida from day one. We never indulged it. We never supported any attempts to scapegoat police. And we made sure that defunding law enforcement was simply unacceptable in the state of Florida. And then when it came to making sure that there was order in our streets, particularly when you started to see violent assemblies, and I don't need to tell some of you what's happened in many cities across our country. In Florida, we said we are not tolerating rioting, looting, we're not tolerating mob violence. I called up the National Guard to help our local law enforcement. We work with local leaders. We said it's not happening in Florida, and you know what? You didn't see a city burn down in Florida because we weren't going to let it happen. But I also took to heart what we were seeing in so many parts of the country. And so yes, it's fine that we responded. It's fine I can say that we're supportive of law enforcement, but we need to back that up with additional law. And so several months ago, I was able to sign the strongest pro-law enforcement anti-rioting law in the country. And we were very proud. And what we did really does two main things. The first thing it does is it tells every local government in the state of Florida, we, the state of Florida, will not let you defund the police. That is not happening in our state. We also provided strong penalties for mob violence, violent assemblies, particularly when that violence is targeted at law enforcement officers. And I look around the country and you see, like Portland, they riot, they get a slap on the wrist, they get put back on the street. We said in Florida that doesn't work. If you riot, you're not getting a slap on the wrist, you're going to jail. And we're going to make sure you're in jail. And that's a much different approach than what you've seen in other parts of the country over the last year. You've seen cities, Chicago slash $58 million for law enforcement in 2021. Do I even need to mention what's happening in crime in Chicago? I don't think so. The city of Portland cut $15 million for law enforcement. Now we've seen a spike in shootings and a wave of retirements and resignations for people serving on the force. One detective said the community shows us zero support. And you see people moving with their feet as a result. New York City cut $382 million for the NYPD. Shootings up dramatically, but also 75% increase in officers leaving either through retirement or through resignation. And there's many other cities we can go through where the same story happens over and over again. When you defund police, when you attack law enforcement, it's the safety of the community that suffers. It's the most vulnerable people in our society that suffers. And here we are 1 year later from when all this stuff came to a head. And I think we can say defunding police has been one of the most counterproductive and insane policies that's ever been pursued in our country. So bad that almost every city that you mentioned, that I mentioned, they're now scrambling to try to put money back into the law enforcement budget because even they realize how disastrous those policies were.